Welcome back to the channel, everybody. I'm Trevor with Maker Experiment, and in today's video, I'm going to be replacing the X-axis on my Fusion Pro. The reason for that is the belt that was on it is kind of worn, so we're gonna go through that process because I've never done it before, and I thought I would share what it's like to do that. So what I'm gonna do is walk through the guide. There's gonna be a lot of me going back and forth to my computer to read the instructions. But I will kind of walk through what I'm doing and just give you an insight into what's going to be going on, what's involved, and how easy it is from the stuff that they give me. Epilog did send a new X-rail. I've already kind of taken it out of the box. I'll show you what that looks like, and then we'll start going through the directions. So let's go. Just for reference, I just read the first page of it. It does give a part number, so I'm going to be replacing the CS1200. That is the X-axis rail for the Pro 48. You're going to need a 5/32 inch Allen wrench, a 5/16 nut driver, and a Phillips head screwdriver. So keep that in mind. All right, step numbers 1 through 3. Turn off the engraver, unplug it, and then take off the left and right panels. So let's go do that. It's already turned off, so just unplug it and lay that off to the side. There should be a toolkit included with your machine, so grab the 5/32 inch Allen wrench out of there. You'll just turn that one to the left, that one to the left as well, and it should come right off. Repeat that process on the other side. All right, next up, we're going to move the X-axis to the middle of the table. We're going to loosen the retaining ring around the laser nozzle and then take that nozzle off. So we're gonna open this up. Pull that to the middle of the table. Over to here. And then let me show you what I'm doing. All right, on the lens assembly, there's a little screw right here that's the retaining ring. This is what we're gonna take off or loosen. So go put a screwdriver in there. Oh, I'm gonna need a smaller one, hold on. So you're gonna loosen the screw. Actually, slide it out of the way and then take the nozzle off. Coincidentally, this is also how you get your lens out to clean it. Okay, the next step is to loosen the bellows on either side of the machine. So the way to do this is to loosen these 3 nuts and these 3 nuts to take those bellows, and then you'll do the same thing on the opposite side. This is where they recommend a nut driver. I do not have one in that size, so I'm going to use a socket wrench. And underneath each one, if I can get it off, is a tiny lock washer. So make sure you have the nut and the lock washer for every one of these. I would suggest putting them in some kind of container. Containers like these from the little Home Depot cabinets or storage containers or whatever, these work really great for this kind of stuff. So now I'm going to go through and I'm going to take off the remaining 5. and gently remove it. Be careful to not tear a hole in it. Now do the same thing on the other side. Again, take off the middle plate. Be careful when you're doing this. Gently remove the bellows and then let it collapse back, like so. All right. You're gonna do the exact same thing on the other side of the machine. I'm not gonna show it on camera, but you do the same thing. You loosen the 6 nuts and take them off, and then you'll take the bellows off. On the right side of the machine, you'll see this cover that covers the X-axis drive board. There are 4 screws, 2 on each side. You need to loosen, but not remove, these 4 screws. This will slide out. So what we're gonna do is loosen these just a little bit. And then this should slide right off. On this board, there are 7 different connectors. Try to make this a little bit better. So each one's on a pin connection. You're gonna have to be very careful when you take these off that you don't crack anything off or break anything off. It's definitely take your time. Don't rush it. Don't try to force it. They should slide off. So for this bottom one, there's usually, if you're not familiar with these connectors, there's usually a little pin that you have to push in. So push it in with maybe your screwdriver, and then it should slide and pop right off. Now, what I'm going to do personally is I'm going to take a picture of what that looks like. So I roughly remember which colors go where, just in case. This is also the first time I've ever replaced one of these, so I'm in this boat with all of you. So again, loosen it up, pop it off. So far it looks like these 2 are 2 different connectors, so that'll help later with identifying which goes where. Again, there should be 7 of them. So there's number 3. Number 4. Number 5. And some of these are easy enough to do without a screwdriver. Number 6. And then I believe the last one is just the big one at the bottom. All right. So there's that. And then over on the right, there's a little air hose. So over here on the right, there's this air hose. Just push in the orange collar, slide the hose out, and let that hang. So the next step, it says loosen and remove the 4 7/64 inch hex screws that hold the X-axis drive board housing. Now, when I look at the diagram, those screws are this screw, and then there's 2 screws over here. Mine are not hex head screws. They are actually Phillips head screws. So I'm going to go ahead and take those off, because by the diagram, that is what is correct. But they didn't match the hex explanation, so keep that in mind. It may slightly differ, and hopefully I'm doing the right thing. All right, so we're gonna loosen these screws. Now it says you should be able to, whoop, and there it goes. So this should be what you just removed. Be careful, because mine just fell off. The next step says to remove and or loosen the 4 5/32 fasteners that secure the X-axis assembly to the Y-axis bearing. This is the Y-axis bearing. You can actually see the rail and everything through there. It says there are 2 on the left and 2 on the right. I think they simplified this since this manual or instructions came out, because there's only 1 on each side. So I'm going to go through, I'm going to remove these. The tool that comes with the machine is too tall. It'll hit the top here. So just for demonstration purposes, here's the tool. It'll only go like that. I can't raise it up any higher. So you're going to have a different 5/32 inch way to do this. I am using a 5/32 inch bit attached to my socket. So this is how you're going to have to do it. And once you get it out far enough, you should be able to hand loosen it the rest of the way. Not quite there yet. There we go. So this should have a washer, a lock washer, and a nut, as well as a little plastic ring. So make sure you get all of that. And then do the same thing on the other side. All right. I think I got all that. So now you need to do on the other side of the machine. So same thing. Loosen those 2 screws that connect the X-axis to the Y-axis drive. Make sure you grab all the pieces, the washer, the lock washer, and the little plastic piece. Okay, the next step is we need to lift off the locator pin. So you can see a locator pin here. Just lift it off, move it just a little bit to get off the locator pin, and then you're gonna have to go to the other side of the machine and do the same thing. So again, we're going to try to lift that off the locator pins, like so. And then we've got to move the whole thing out through the right-hand side of the machine. So now, I get to move the whole thing through very carefully. Through the right-hand side. I'm getting caught. Oh, I know I'm getting caught. Hold up. So here, I didn't realize this had a connection. So there's a connection from the motor to the Y-axis cable management. There's 2 zip ties here that are securing that in place, so we need to basically disconnect this. But in order to get it to come out, we're gonna have to clip the cable management, which I'm not a fan of, but don't really have a choice. There we go. So now we can disconnect, and we're fully disconnected. I don't recall it saying anything in the instructions about that. I might have missed it. So as you're pulling it out, do it very slowly, because you might have missed something that was connected. This is a case where that cable was still connected. I didn't see it. So just be careful. And again, it might have been in the instructions and I just missed it. But make sure you disconnect every part of this before you try to slide it out. Now that you are officially disconnected, slide that out very carefully. You may have to adjust up and down. There we go. That takes care of the removal of that part. It didn't take really long. It was fairly straightforward. It didn't necessarily match the instructions 100%. Again, this machine that I'm using is a refurbished Fusion Pro 48. So this might have been before the instructions got updated or after, I'm not sure. So where it said, 4 screws, it might have been 2, or there might have been an extra connection that wasn't there. Just keep that in mind. But nothing you can't work through. It's still fairly straightforward to get that out. The one tip is you're gonna need a lot of room to the right side of your machine. I have about 4 feet of empty space, and I still had to angle that rail as I was taking it out. So make sure you have plenty of space to do this. You're not gonna be able to do this in a very cramped area. Now that I've done that, I'm going to start installing the new one. So let's get to that part. All right, first step. This is the rail that got boxed up and sent to me. So here's the new one. Get that out of the way. So brand new. It's got a brand new, clean, not disturbed belt. Now, whoa. On here, there's a tag. This tag has the part number. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna take this off because it needs to come off while we're doing this. I think, there we go. Poof, tag off. If you're replacing it on the Fusion Pro 48, it's gonna be the CS 12, well this says CS 1258. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna slide this through the same way we took the last one out, and then we'll basically work our way backwards. So let's get to it. First step working backwards is to get the rail onto the locating pin on both sides. So this one's locked in. I'm gonna go do the other one. So again, just take it, slide it over the locating pin and lock it in. Done. Now you put those screws in. They look like these with the hex head. They should have that plastic washer, the metal washer, and the lock washer. So feed them in with your hands. That way you know you're not trying to do it at an angle or cross-threading it. Just be very careful. And then tighten it down. Make it nice and snug. Don't try to over tighten it though. Same thing on this side. You're going to slide them in. The next step is to reattach this board to the housing. So we're going to slide this up and get a couple of these started just so it holds it in place. When you're putting this stuff back together, I highly recommend feeding the screws in by hand. Definitely don't use a power drill of any kind, because if you're not careful, you can strip the threads or mess up the screw. So you can do it with a screwdriver because some of these are going to be hard to access by hand. Just be very careful. Don't put a lot of pressure on it. It should feed in nice and easy. Like so. And then once you have them all fit in, go ahead and snug them all up. There you go. Then you're gonna find the air hose, which is down here. And you're going to connect it back to that spot, give it a little tug, make sure it's secure, and that's what it should look like so far. The next step here is to connect all of these cables back to each other. Most of them are going to be pretty straightforward because they're the only cables that go where they do. The one thing I noticed was my new X-axis didn't have the cable here plugged into it. It didn't say to remove this during the instructions, but I could take the old one off of the other axis. So I'm just gonna go ahead and plug that in to the new axis, make sure it's nice and secure. And then that one is a 6-pin. There's only one 6-pin over here. So I'm just gonna go in and plug that in. Kind of keep it to the side. This one's a 5-pin and okay. And there's only one 5-pin, so I'm gonna kind of feed that down to the 5-pin one, like so. This one is a 3-pin that goes over here. This one is a 4-pin. That 4-pin goes over here. Sorry if I'm blocking the camera. I'm trying to keep the cables nice and neat. The 4-pin down here is a block 4-pin, not a straight 4-pin. So that one goes here. And then the DVI type cable goes, let me check the orientation. My head is in the way. Okay. And then the DVI cable goes here, or whatever cable it is. And then there's another, where is it? A couple cables here. So there's this one. That's a small 4-pin that comes on the axis. That goes in your top left corner. I probably should have plugged that one in first, in all honesty. There we go. Like so. Make sure you don't have any wires that are going to get caught in fans or anything like that. And then there's this other cable here that connects to your USB here, like so. So I will say this is pretty straightforward. All of the connections have different size connectors, so you can't really mess them up. But just be nice and careful. Make sure you're not trying to force anything. And then what you're gonna do is take the cover plate, go ahead and slide it over. Make sure you don't pinch anything. And actually, had it upside down. There you go. So you're gonna cover all that up nice and neat. Again, make sure you don't pinch any wires and tighten it down from the sides. This makes sure that you don't get those caught in anything later on and that you don't shut them in the door when you put the panel back on the side. All right, the next step is to reattach the bellows. So you're going to gently slide the bellow holes onto that new X-axis. You're going to put in the metal guard, like so. And then you're going to install the lock washer and the nut. So just take your time. I usually do one at a time to get it on there because I don't want the lock washer slipping off if that little metal plate moves. So just go one at a time, nice and slow. I get them as hand tight as I can, and then I go back and tighten them up with the socket. All right, there's one side. Now we do the other. So pull it in, oops. Attach it. Sorry if my head is in the way. Okay. Put the metal part on to make sure it doesn't tear the plastic piece. And then again, go one at a time. And just do it hand tight to begin with. Then go and tighten each one of those. There we go. All right, now we go to the other side. Again, I'm going to attach the bellows to the X-axis rail. Again, go one at a time. And then the same thing on this side. And again, do it one by one. Now that they're all on, go ahead and tighten them up. I was so caught up in just trying to get this done that I missed the metal piece. Make sure you put the metal piece. Oops. Otherwise, you're gonna have a tough time tightening these down properly. So don't do what I did. Do it the right way. Which means I have to undo the other side. But we'll go ahead and tighten this. I'll fix the other side. Just remember to put the metal plate, because I didn't. I don't know how that happened, but I sheared off a bolt stud. The unfortunate part is it's part of the X-axis rail. The good news is it's the middle one, so it should be okay without it, but that's not ideal. So be careful. I don't know why it did that. I'm trying to do this gently by hand. I'm not over tightening or anything, so just make sure they're nice and snug. Well, it's not going to come off. It's only holding the bellows, so it's not critical. But yeah, be careful. Just redoing the right side. I added the metal plate. Again, just being careful. Don't over tighten it. There we go. Okay, once you have all of that tightened down, you're going to take off that screw right here. Slide up the tube. There is a notch in the back that lines up. And then you're just going to tighten that down. And now your tube is held in place. Once you've done all that, go ahead and replace the side panels. Do that on both sides. At this point, the X-rail is replaced, so you can go ahead, plug it back in, and turn it on, because the next step is actually on the machine with the updates and software stuff. So go ahead and plug it back in. And boot it up. And then just wait for it to boot up, and we'll go through the next steps. All right, it might be a little loud, but what you're gonna do is you're gonna hit settings, and then you're gonna hold down on the settings text. This will take you into the advanced menu. See if we can get that calibrated here. All right, then you're gonna click on diagnostics. Okay. You're going to go over to the camera tab, and you're going to click on the test and update button. And you're going to let that run through. So here, we're going to say update cameras, and then let it run. It'll take a couple minutes. Okay, it says update success, so we're done, so you can click done there. All right, now we're gonna hit the gear button at the top, Then we're gonna hit Program. Okay, now we're in the Machine Update Peripherals menu. So in here, we're gonna select the motor drives and the FPGA and say Update. And this will run through the process. It might take a couple of minutes. It is normal for the screen to go blank, so don't worry about that. It will pop back up. Once it finishes the process, it will prompt you to power cycle the machine, so we'll just wait for that to come up. All right, so now you see it's a success. Go ahead and power cycle the machine, so we'll turn it off. All right, so we'll turn it back on. All right, there we go. Once you finish the X-axis calibration and installation, the manual does say that you need to complete a full focus calibration as well as a mirror alignment. So keep that in mind. Those are going to be the next steps. I'm not going to cover them in this video. Each one of them is fairly extensive to do. Well, maybe not the focus calibration, but the alignment is. I do have a video on alignment for a Fusion Edge. You can check that out. I have not done a focus one. I'll see if I can film that as well. But wanted to give you the heads up, you do need to do those two things afterwards. Hopefully this video has been helpful. If it has, give it a thumbs up, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so that you know when I come out with new videos. Definitely check out my Instagram @MakerExperiment, where I share stuff along the way. If you have any ideas for new videos, put those in the comments below. Everything that you give me, I try to do a video on. If you want more maintenance videos or replacement part videos, let me know that too. But I want to thank you for taking the time to watch this video, and I'll see you in the next one.